Okay, so let's start. So my name is Tommy Clark. I'm from Sweden, so you're going to hear a lot of bad English. But I'm also an MCSM on Lync server. Do we have any other MCM or MCSM in here? So 2 or 3. So if you guys have any good questions, you should ask these gentlemen there, because they are the masters of this. I was a Lync MVP for 5 years, but I have switched to Office 365, so that's basically where I work now with cloud stuff. And I answer questions on Twitter and on the Yammer feed for this session as well afterwards. So the agenda is going to be conferencing lifecycle, and this session is going to be like a meeting in Skype for Business. So we're going to start with the scheduling and end with the end. That's good, right? So we got some conferencing lifecycle, conferencing backend, modalities, protocol, and then some more lifecycle at the end. It's supposed to be a level 400, but I'm going to mix between 3 and 400. You're going to see some log files that might be hard to understand, and that might be 400, but I'm going to try to explain them, so that might be 300. So let's start with scheduling. And when a user clicks on the Lync button in Outlook, in the backend, it's actually sent 3 service messages. And when the user then clicks on send or save that meeting, 3 others will be sent to the service. And let's go through these. So the first one that's sent is a service message to the Focus Factory that you can see on the upper right. And I'm going to explain the Focus Factory in a bit, so don't care so much about that. The message that is sent is an modify conference, it's an add conference, sorry. So the first message is an add conference, and you will see the conference ID and admission policy anonymous, the entities that should be on for this meeting and so on, server mode, version 14, lobby bypass, true, and so on. The next message that is sent when you click save or send is this one. And that's a modify conference message. And it will include the subject, that's test 2, and also the expiry time for this meeting. And this meeting was an ad hoc conference. So I just opened Lync and selected a new meeting and then started it. And that's 14 full days from when the message was, or from when the meeting was scheduled. So when you look at documentation, you will see 15,000, but that's 14 full days. So that can be some confusion around that. And the expiration, I'm going to talk more about that in the end, so let's continue. If you are offline when you try to click the new meeting button, depending on how you have configured your server, so if these settings are both set to true, you will be able to create a meeting offline as well. And if we look in the registry, we have some settings. So all the settings are cached in the registry, and you will see everything in there. And that's why it's basically work offline as well. If you're using Skype for Business Online in an offline mode, that's a good header, right? You are not able to change the enable assigned conference type to true. So it's always set to false. And that basically means that every meeting that you will create will have an unique ID. So every meeting is unique, and you don't have the default meeting for the users. And since it's unique, you can't really talk to the focus factory and get your unique ID, and that's why you can't create an offline meeting. And you will see that message pop up. Okay, so there are some settings that you can configure. So we already watched the assigned conference type by default and the enable assigned conference type. And those two settings are used to enable or disable that unique meeting ID. You can also set PSTN, caller, bypass lobby, and so on, allow conference recording. And if you watch closely, there are some new things in Skype for Business Online as well. We also have the set CS conferencing configuration. Oh, the previous slide, that's some settings that you can also do in Skype for Business Online. But these settings are only available for on-prem. So here we can set the content grace period, and that was set to 15 or 14 full days in Lync, but it's now changed to 365 days, so 1 full year. And that's the content grace period after the meeting have expired. I will get back to this later on. Max content, 500 megabytes, and bandwidth. So let's repeat what actually happened when we scheduled the meeting. The scheduling client, that would be the Outlook plugin, talks to the Focus Factory. The Focus Factory then writes the meeting to the backend database that will then reply back to the client with a 200 OK message and the information that we saw earlier with the expiration date and so on. Okay, so let's continue the life cycle to activation. And when the first client of any type joins the meeting or clicks on that join meeting button, there's a lot of zip messages that will jump back and forth here. And the first one is the invite. And have you all seen a zip message before? So you're all sitting in Snooper all days and analyzing invites, and yeah, cool. Me too. And if you haven't seen Snooper yet, it's like the only and best tool to analyze these kind of messages. And basically what I do is I copy the Snooper exe file into my log folder on my client, and then I can just drag and drop the logs into Snooper and they will open up. And it's a quick way to analyze log files on the clients as well. So the invite is a message that will be sent when you join the meeting. And as you can see here, it's a content type application, CCCP XML. So what's that C3P thing? It's a protocol that handles the conference creation and deletion and so on. It's transported over zip. So you saw the zip message, and then we had the XML body in it with all these kind of instructions and commands that it will send. So if we look further into it, we will see that it's sent actually from me to my Focus Factory, so app.conf Focus Factory. It's an XML message, and this is the body. And in this specific message, we have the add conference. That would be when I click the new meeting button, right? We can also send some more commands like add conference, modify, delete, get conferences, add users. The best one is probably modify endpoint media, and that's when you mute someone that has a barking dog or screaming child in the background. Set lobby access and so on. You would probably never see these messages, right? Or have anyone looked at the specific modify conference lock anytime? I haven't. But it's good to understand what's actually happening in the background when you create a meeting, right? So let's talk about this focus. The focus managed the Oh, let's start with the focus factory, because we talked about that already. So the focus factory is a zip entity that creates and modifies and deletes the conference in the conference database. It also handles the URI for the meeting. And that was the first part that we saw. The focus then is a central gatekeeper that handles everything in the meeting. So when you click on join the meeting, you will actually talk to the focus, and the focus will make sure that you are allowed into the meeting or allowed to start that meeting. And if you later on kick someone or mute someone and so on, you will talk to the focus, and the focus will then do that for you. Behind that, we have the conferencing or MCU factory. And that's a thing that provisions the meeting and talks to the different MCUs to make sure that the MCU that you want to start the meeting on actually is not overloaded. So it's kind of handling load, like a load balancer as well. And then we have the conferencing database, and that's where all the information regarding the meeting is stored. And when the meeting is live, it's actually in the RTC local database, and that's where if you add or make an attendee to a presenter or promote one, that will be stored in the RTC DIN, I think, database on the front-end servers. The conferencing database does not have the schedule information because that schedule information is actually stored in Exchange. So the meeting, some information is stored in Exchange and some is stored in the linked databases. And when you click on delete in Outlook, the plugin will actually talk to the focus factory and then delete the meeting in the database. Okay, so we saw the first part already. So when we click on the join button, the conferencing client will talk to the focus. The focus will make sure that the user has the right to attend this meeting or start this meeting. It will then talk to the conferencing MCU factory that will in turn make sure and talk to the conferencing server MCUs and provision that meeting on those MCUs. The focus will then connect to the MCU, and after that the client connects to the different MCUs. So is that kind of clear how that works? Any questions? I got a t-shirt for someone. Yeah, thanks.
Did you have multiple?
I think, try it again.
Hello?
Yeah.
If you have multiple conferences, or if you're having multiple modalities, application sharing, audio, video, so using multiple MCUs, is it all controlled through the focus for that one conference?
Yeah, it should be controlled by the focus and the conferencing MCU factory. But those modalities could be on different front-end servers. Does that answer it?
Yeah, so is the focus managing the MCUs for that one particular conference, if the MCUs is on different front ends?
So I think the conferencing MCU factory would manage those for those meetings. But the focus is also involved with that.
Okay, so the MCU factory manages the MCU for that particular modality. So if you have 3 modalities, that would be 3 MCUs and 3 conferencing factories, but only one focus,
yeah.
Right? Okay, thank you.
Hey, you forgot your t-shirt.
We've seen in Link.
Oh, come get one later, because the size was too big
Link
for you.
2013 where it tends to prefer the home server regardless of.
Yeah, it should do that. But let's say that's your home server, or you could be in a pool, right, with 6 servers, let's say, and your primary.
10 out of 10 times it preferred the home server. As long as it's not busy, we'll always prefer the home server.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me. So the different modalities or the different MCUs. We have the IM, audio, video, app sharing, and web conference. And those are actually represented as services. And if you run the get CS Windows service where name like MCU, you will find those services and see all the active conferences on those services. And let's start with the IM conferencing server. This one is being used in peer-to-peer IM messages and conferences as well. It's basically zip transport, and we can control it with the IM filter. And that's why it's also being used in peer-to-peer IM messages. So we have some different settings that we can do. We cannot auto-start IM with a server policy, but you could do that from a client if you check that box to always open IM messages when you open a conference. We can disable IM, and we can create IM-only meeting as well if we disable audio-video. And that would be like a chat meeting. If we set Q&A, you wouldn't have IM. If you look at the Skype meeting option, when we create or schedule the meeting, we have disable IM, but not like we couldn't create a Q&A meeting from the start here, but we could create a policy that only allows Q&A meetings. So when we join the IM conference, you will see that the invite is being sent to the opaque AppConf chat ID. And that's basically the service that we're sending that to. And this is after that dance between the Focus and the Focus Factory and MCU Factory has already been taken care of. And this is when we connect directly to the MCU. It's from me to that AppConf chat ID. And the content type is an application SDP. So the service description is down here. And Johan Delimon has a session on Friday that will go through the SDP that I really recommend. And that was included in this session before when we did it, but we have kind of split these two sessions into two. So the audio-video conferencing server, and let's start with the audio. So audio is actually mixed. So 5 simultaneously speakers can be sent down to the AV MCU. And the AV MCU will handle that, create a mix from those 5 users, and send it out to all the attendees. But it will not send out the active speaker to the active speaker. So I wouldn't hear myself. So it's a bit complex, but basically it's a 5 active speaker that's being sent out to every other users inside a mixed audio stream. And that's being handled by the AV MCU, so that's going to use some CPU cycles on that server. And depending on what kind of client you are on, you could use different codecs, and that would be mixed in the server and then sent out. So we have some settings that we can do to control this as well. Mute all participants, auto start audio, disable video for the users, and so on. And we couldn't create a video-only meeting. So we need to have audio if we're going to have video. And it's basically the same MCU anyway, so you would connect and start that on that service anyway. To control the bitrate or control the amount of bandwidth we can do, we can create a policy that sets that to, let's say, 100 kilobytes or 1 megabyte or whatever. And that's basically how we control that nowadays. Before, we had a setting to control max video conference resolution to VGA, but that's been deprecated. And now we would control that with a kilobyte per second anyway. So when we join an audio conference, it's basically the same. We send an invite to the opaque AppConf audio video service instead, from to, and then we will see that we have an M audio RTP. And then we see 117, 9, 111, 0, and so on. And that's basically the codecs in the order of, in the preferred order. And this is the stuff that Johan will talk more in greater detail on Friday. So, video. Okay.
When the presenter mutes the audience, does it receive an empty stream audio or does it receive a stream at all?
He wouldn't receive on stream for that. Except for, so if he's talking, he wouldn't receive that back because let's say he have 10 attendees and only one presenter and he's the only one that's talking. He wouldn't receive anything back, but they would receive his voice. So video is being switched, and that's entirely different than mixed. And that's also saves some of the CPU on the services because everything is just passed through the service to the different clients. The codec that we use is H.264 SVC and the UC version of that. And we also support some old codecs for backward compatibility with Link 2010 and so on. We have the smart cropping gallery view, and if we look at the SDP for this, we will see that it's basically 3 different codecs that are being used. The first one, H.264, and then the legacy version, and then we have the FEC forward error correction version. And that's being used if there's a lot of dropped package on the net. And basically everyone that supports H.264 also supports the FEC codec as well. So video switching. In this picture, 3 of the users are receiving the gallery view, and they would receive 5 small images or video feeds, right? And 2 of the users are receiving the full screen view. So when they clicked on full screen on any particular users, the user that they want to see in full screen will actually send both the small gallery view preview image or video feed and also the full screen video. So basically, video switching works like that. So it will send out all the different feeds to all the different users, and then when someone clicks on full screen, they will also receive or start sending that feed to the server and then to that users. So when we join a video conference, it's the same AV MCU from to, and then the content type, the SDP, M video, and then the different codecs. So if you're troubleshooting video or audio or something, always search for this M equals to video or audio, and you will find the SDP for that particular meeting. Application sharing. So there are some settings, but not that many that we can do. But we can allow users to schedule meetings without or with app sharing and set that to true or false, and basically handle that via policy. The codecs that are being used are the RDP encapsulated in an RTP stream. And when we start a meeting, it's the same thing here. We talk to the AppConf application sharing MCU from to, and then we have the SDP, and we will see the codecs and the SDP message. What we can do here is, since some CU, like 1.5 years ago, I think, they enable high-performance conferencing app sharing policy. Have you seen that? So with the default settings, the frame rate of a desktop sharing session is pretty low. But you can change this setting with this policy to make it get a higher FPS. And that will also consume more bandwidth, of course. But if you're into like CAD business and you're doing CAD drawings and working together like that, you might require a higher frame rate than if you're only doing word processing and shared documents like that. A question?
I'm wondering in the link bandwidth calculator if there's a value that we can actually manually enter.
I haven't seen that, so I don't think so. But there are some blog posts that discuss this in greater detail and says they actually measured how much bandwidth would be used if you max that out.
Do this, and they go, well, can we do that in our environment?
Yeah. But I haven't seen anything else than the blog post that measured that. So there are some other policies that you can set: allow annotations, allow polls, Q&A, shared notes, and so on, with the CS conferencing policy. And we talked about all these policies. And when it comes to Skype for Business Online, we actually have 221 different policy sets that we can enable or grant on our users. So instead of creating our own policies like we do in on-prem, we have to use these predefined different policy sets. And this number is growing consistently. So like 6 months ago, it was like 150 or something. So they are creating new policy sets that we can use to configure the different user sets that we want to have. And since it's so many, a tip is to export these into a CSV file and open up in Excel, and then filter out the different settings. And then find a policy set that is the same that you want to apply on your users. And that's basically the only way of finding out what's in these policies anyways. You have a question?
You mentioned it was 150 and 221. What's driving it to increase so often? Is it just
Customer requests.
just a request? So anyone can request?
I'm not sure about anyone, but it's like,
Procedure, right? Or some kind of process you can go through?
yeah, I think this is basically created from support requests from larger enterprises to start with. But I have found that now mostly any one of my particular requests are in here anyway. So I almost always find one set of policy that I can use with this.
Seems like a lot of people are confused.
Yeah. We can actually look on that one and how they look like. So this would be an exported, all the different policies exported and then opened up in Excel. So I did some filtering and to just make it easy to read on. You see allow IP audio, video, multi-view, and all these kind of settings. Allow polls. But it's one way might be to print this on a large paper and then go and find one that you can actually use. Yeah. But it takes some time to find the one that you really want to use. But with some Excel skills and filtering, you're going to find it. There is also another one for the CS client policy. But this one is a bit easier since it's only like 10 or 20 policy sets that you could use. Okay, so to grant these policies to users, you would use the command grant CS conferencing policy, and then the identity and the tag of the policy that you want to grant on the users. And there are these 5 kind of commands that you can run in Skype for Business Online to configure the users. So media path in online specifically, because in on-prem you kind of know your network, right? So you would understand how the media flows between your client and your server depending on how your network is configured. But in online it can be a bit complex since the server is placed in a big data center somewhere and you kind of choose 2 data centers when you sign up. But if I'm home and I'm actually doing a tracer to my edge server that I connect to, or actually this is the web pool in this picture. But it's like 7 hops, right? So 6 hops until I reach the Microsoft network. So I barely touch the internet. It's only my own ISP, and then I'm directly connected into Microsoft network and then going through their internal network over to the servers. And if I do the same thing from over here, and since I'm Swedish, so my data center is in Ireland and Dublin. And this one is probably Dublin or something. And I think it's like 5 hops from here to until I reach the data center with a latency that wasn't this bad before. So that network.msn.net is actually the Microsoft internal network. And then I don't see anything more interesting. So even though it's Lync or Skype for Business Online, the traffic might not travel so far over the internet that you expected, right? Because the Microsoft network is pretty big, and depending on your ISP, where they route their traffic into Microsoft network, it might just have some hops over the internet and then reach the internal network. And these 2 links down here actually describes or points out all the different peering hops that Microsoft have in the world. And there are quite many. I think it's like, I can't remember the number, but it's a huge network. It's also been announced that Lync Online will actually be will be supported in ExpressRoute in Office 365. So if you find that if your network is too complex, or if you're having too many hops or so on to the Lync servers, you could enable ExpressRoute and then have your own WAN connection into your servers. And QoS will also be supported in the future with this. So you will have some quality controls if you sign up for ExpressRoute as well in the future. It's the same ExpressRoute as Azure ExpressRoute. So if you're already using that today, you could use the same ExpressRoute for Lync Online and Exchange Online in the future as well. There was a session yesterday on this that was pretty good. So I recommend you to watch the recording from that one, or if it's a repeat session. So conference size and large meeting. On-prem can support up to 1,000 participants in a separate conferencing pool for meetings, but the default support is 250 participants, both in online and on-prem. At the keynote, they announced the Skype for Business broadcast meeting. So you can actually broadcast up to 10,000 people with dynamic playback. Did anyone see the training session on Skype for Business Online that they had? Like a series of 15 or 20 different sessions or something. That was actually used in Skype for Business broadcast services. So you have already played with it if you've been to those meetings. So back to lifecycle, the activation. So when the conference is, or when a user clicks on the red cross, he will send a bye to the conference, and then that will start the deactivation process. And 90 minutes after all the authenticated users have left the meeting, all unauthenticated participants would be ejected from that meeting as well. And that's basically if you just close the meeting. That will send a bye message to the server, and you can see the diagnostic reason is action initiated by the user. If you want to delete the conference, let's say you have some drawings or some information that you don't want people to look at anymore, you could use the end meeting option, but that's hidden under the 3 dots. So I don't see that many users that actually use that, because the normal thing and the closest things to do is to just click the cross, right? But you could use that meeting button or end meeting button to quit the meeting directly. Also, if you delete the meeting from Outlook, that will also send an delete conference message, or if you delete the user from your servers. A question?
So end meeting has the effect of delete conference. Can anyone then do it, or no, only
Only
the presenters?
the presenters. But all your authenticated users could be presenters, right? So if someone did that mistakenly during the conference, that would send a delete conference message out. But that wouldn't really end the conference fully. You still have some time to reopen it afterwards. And this is the end meeting button. So it's hidden under this button, so that's why I don't see it used so much. And if we look at question.
On the end meeting, is there a way, do you know if it's possible to have the end meeting go to like another URL, have the URL pull up for like a questionnaire or something?
Not really, but kind of, and I will show it soon. So the zip message that's being sent now is a service message that has the delete conference in it. And if you're troubleshooting, you will know that someone hit the end meeting here. Another question? Yeah, so the question is, if I end the meeting, will the participants be kicked out? And yes, they will be, directly. So after that, a bye message will be sent back to all the users, and this will tell them that the organizer ended the session, and that's basically when they will be kicked out. So meeting expiration. When a meeting expires, the data record is deleted from the front ends, but there is still an expiration time plus 365 days now. This was 15 or 14 full day, but it's now 365 full days grace period before the entire conference and the entire information, all the uploaded files and so on, is deleted. Another question?
So with that expiration, is that, if we do an in-place upgrade of our link system, is that a setting that gets turned on by default, or do I need to go in there and change that policy?
I'll give you this one if you take that question back. But I will find out. So basically the question is, if you're in an in-place upgrade, you have the 15 full days for that meeting, and then you do the upgrade. Will it be 365 or would it still be 15? And I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there are. You know?
It will be 15 because in the database, when you do place upgrade, the extension date is already written in the database. And I don't think you place upgrade will overwrite this data.
Okay, so I may have to do it.
It's a guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the discussion is new meetings will be 365, but old meetings would most certainly have the old expiration days of 15.
Grace period defined within a policy?
Sorry?
Is it the grace period defined within a policy? So if it was set to 15 prior, it would still remain 15 unless that policy was actually modified.
Yeah, but I don't think that would modify the conference information on old meetings. Yeah, maybe if you do an update in Outlook or something. Yeah. So, depending on how you start a meeting or schedule the meeting, you would have different sets of meeting expiration. So, one-time scheduled meeting is the end date plus 365. It was the end date plus 15 or 14 days. Recurring meeting is the end date of the last recurrency plus 365. And then we have ad hoc meetings, 8 hours. So after you end the meeting, you will receive a bye message. And that's sent to all the users, and it says bye sent you to conference being deleted. And after that, you will also see the evaluation message, so the VQ report event message. And if you are online, you don't have access to the reporting services, right? So you wouldn't see the metrics. And this is basically the only way to troubleshoot if someone has a problem or a bad call or something. So if someone calls your help desk and saying that they have quality issues with a call, ask them to send the log file and then search for this VQ report event message. And that's basically an XML message. So I have a script that exports this message and then sends it to me, so that the user would only have to run that script or an exe file or whatever. And then you would get that message reported to you. And you could open it up in Excel or whatever XML tool you would use, and then have a good UI explaining it. So actually, is someone using Infopuff? Have someone ever used Infopuff? Wow. So Infopuff is actually pretty great on opening XML messages. And you could, so what I have is a page that I just open, and I've written some descriptions from the KB files and so on to understand what these kind of numbers actually means. So it's like, what is a QoE score of 4? Is that good or bad? And that Infopuff file actually describes this when I open it. So send me an email if you want to have that, and I will send this back to you. So this message is sent to the monitoring server if you're on-prem, and you will see that in your monitoring data. But in online, this is probably the best way of knowing what's happening on your network or with your users. So you also have a 10% chance to see this message. And the default is set to 10%, and that's what I wanted to say to you that I had later on, because this is basically the only thing that you can get the users to fill in. And you can set that limit to like 100%, and your users would always see this message. It's defaulted to 10% in online as well as on-prem, I think. And in online, you wouldn't really be able to see what the users are saying now, but this is also a zip and XML message, so you can intercept that and see what they are doing. And after that, it's a 200 OK being sent out. And that basically means when you're evaluating this session, because you have to do that, I've given you a hint on where to press. Okay?
Would that survey pop up on Skype for room systems, or is it only for the individual clients?
I still have 3 of these. So the question is, would that pop up on Skype Room system or only Skype for Business, like the normal clients? And right now, I don't think it would pop up on the Room systems because it's still kind of the old client over there. And in the future, I'm not really sure if it will. On the Surface Hub, I don't know over there as well. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Okay. So there are some more links, and in the PowerPoint deck, I have included like 50 more slides at the end that describes the meeting paths and so on for your reference. And I also recommend that you go on Johan's session on Friday. It's over here somewhere. Yeah, the 12:30 session, SIP signaling, negotiation, and media flows in Skype for Business explained. So, question?
In late 2013, when you use the Meet Now function, you can't change the default for the conference setup. That would be available to set those options, because we have a lot of complaints about that the users don't understand what happens when the meeting starts.
Yeah. So basically, the settings you have is the settings that I showed you in the start, and that's the policy settings that you can set, and that's it, I think.
But you can change the default when you use when you start a meeting in Outlook.
Yeah.
You can't change the standard when you start a Meet Now.
From inside the link of Skype for Business clients. Yeah, but that would be represented by the settings that you have in your policy, and that's, isn't it? Oh. Okay. Yeah, I don't know then. So thank you for coming. We have some more questions.
Quick question. When you schedule a meeting, is it always a service message, or could it possibly be a notify message?
So it could, depending on when, it would be a service message, I think. But depending on when in the conference it would be, it could also be a BE or a notify message.
Do you know in what instances that would happen?
Repeat that, please.
In what instances would a B notify or notify message be sent when scheduling a meeting?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Sorry. Oh, there you go.
Do you know
Yeah,
if
sure.
do you know if some of those messages, especially the rating messages, would come through in the SDN API?
Sorry, repeat that.
So do you know if any of those quality, so the customer rating messages where they rate the call, will those come back through in the SDN API? We see those as a report back?
I think so. I think I've seen that, but I'm not entirely sure.
In the final QoE message, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
What if the participant that's in the meeting, their machine crashes, and then they rejoin? What happens because that buy message never gets sent? So what's the behavior of the meeting at that point?
So if you're have a network glitch or something, so it would try to re-invite to the same meeting, right? Depending on what kind of client you're on. So if you are on a desktop client and you lose your network, you wouldn't receive the buy message, and the client will try to re-invite itself to the same meeting. But
what about in the case where the meeting is over, but the MCU still thinks, or the focus still thinks that user is still joined because they haven't exited the meeting, they haven't sent a buy? Is the buy sent by the participant or sent by the MCU?
It could be sent by both. So depending on if another presenter ends the meeting, the service will send out the buy message to the user. But if the user is ending, he would send out the buy, right?
All right. You mentioned the purge process and the 365-day grace period. Is the 365-day grace period configurable, or can I force a certain meeting's content to get disposed of?
In on-prem it is.
In on-prem? Excellent.
So you're going to answer the question about how to redirect people to a URL at the end of a meeting. What if they click end meeting, or a questionnaire of some kind?
Come here and use this one, because that one is, I don't really hear that one.
Hello? Yep. How to redirect people. So when you end a meeting, how to redirect people to a URL, a questionnaire.
Oh yeah, that's a question. So the questionnaire that I showed you is the only way I know of how to do that. But you might be able to build something that does that for you.
Is it like the rate my meeting kind
Yeah,
of thing?
that's the only thing inside the client. But
are those customizable questions?
No, they're not.
Okay. So
but for the broadcast thing, you have some more options over there.
And that's with the event builder?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
So I have two questions. One is, what are the reasons that you would see in the logs the buy being a participant being removed from a conference? That's my first question.
Yeah. So if you end the meeting, if the client does that, or if a presenter ends the meeting, that would probably be the only reasons, right?
Okay. And then the second thing is, in the bandwidth calculator or in CAC in itself, there's controls that you can set to say the bandwidth limitation for video and for audio, but not for application sharing. Is there any method to, other than saying max?
Just the policy.
Yeah.
So there's this policy. So you see at the end here, you have the app sharing bitrate. That's the only way of doing that, I think. Yeah, or change that. But that would change that for everyone that tries to use conferencing. But yeah, but you don't have that setting in CAC, so it's basically this. And then you would create different set of policies for different users depending on where they are, I guess.
So when you're calculating bandwidth utilization, you have to. So when you're planning bandwidth calculation, you have to anticipate that everybody in that conference is going to use the max.
Yeah, but it kind of depends if they're sharing. If they have two screens, what their resolution are. If they're sharing like a Word document, or if they're sharing a video with action pictures or something, that would use
that
more
changes,
bandwidth.
yeah.
Or if you have, I've also seen like in conference room where they have like a big window behind and it's blowing outside and the trees are blowing. That would consume more bandwidth. But if you like change the camera view a little bit and you only have a white wall, it
And
wouldn't
what-
consume that much.
I forget, you might have said, but what codec are they using for application sharing?
So
I know
it's-
at one time they used RDP, but
Yeah, still.
still using RDP? Okay.
Just curious if you knew what the tag nomenclature they were using when they named policies on TechNet and all the other things. They're using tag colon.
Yeah.
Does that serve some purpose, or is that just their?
I don't
they
know.
started using that recently, and I didn't know if that bought something that you could search in a different manner or something.
I don't know, actually. It's just, I think it's like built in the service that you have to use tag colon to instead of use that
Yeah, I mean,
identity.
all the ones we named just don't have that.
Yeah.
But what they've started to put in TechNet is tag colon, and so I'm just
Yeah.
curious if that's buying them something. If they're
I don't know. It's basically because they can reuse the documentation between online and on-prem, I think.
yeah.
Except for that, I'm not sure.
Okay. Thanks.
So you just said the expiration that is hard-coded cannot be changed, right?
With online.
What?
In online, it's hard coded.
On-premises?
On premises, you could change it.
You can change that.
Yeah.
But why you put 365? Because I think you put it has a reason. So when I change it, what is the recommended range? Like, don't change it too low or...
I think it's pretty good. Most people actually said to me that could we raise this limit from 14 days to like 6 months or whatever, so it's possible to go into meeting and extract data from that. And the data is encrypted anyway on the file server. So
Okay. So the other parameter is the deactivation grace period.
yeah,
So that one is basically control, say when you have a meeting, say I set a meeting for 1 hour, so, but after 1 hour, the meeting can still last for another day, or I don't know what's the default for that one, but
yeah. So depending on how you start the meeting. So if it's a scheduled meeting and a one-time meeting, and it's supposed to end at Friday at noon.
so when?
It's supposed to end at Friday at noon.
Friday?
No, let's just make an example. So you schedule a meeting, it's supposed to end at Friday at noon.
Okay.
The grace period will start after that. So it would be 365 days from that time.
5 days?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but then I read a blog say when it's kick off, basically everyone in the meeting will be kicked off, right?
Yeah.
But someone reactivate, like re-click on the link,
Yeah.
so that meeting is considered to be activated
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So then the grace period or the expiration date will be starting from 0 come to...
Yeah, if you reopen the meeting.
Okay.
But let's say that you delete the conference from Outlook and delete everything like that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the meeting ID and open it again, I guess. So that's basically the best way of doing it. So just delete it from Outlook.
Oh, once I delete that meeting is no longer available?
Yeah.
I'm confused. But then if someone clicks, is the content still there?
It would be there for 365 days.
Oh, it'll still be there.
Yeah.
Okay, and also on the policy here, you have allow IP audio and IP video.
Yeah.
So do you know why they put that separately? Because originally we thought you can control audio and video, but then during our test we found, we thought it would work, but during our test we found out when you disable audio, your video doesn't work anyway, so
Yeah.
that's
I don't know why.
causing problems.
But I guess it is because you can disable video but not audio. But you need to have audio to have video. So
So currently we have an on-prem single site, but we're thinking of expanding to multiple sites for our European users. I read online somewhere you can set simple URLs at the site level,
Yeah.
or keep the global. What would you recommend in that case?
So it depends on your. So actually, the URL will point to where your domain name is, right?
Right.
So let's say you only have .com. So you would only have one. But that's only where your URL points. And then that will redirect you to your home server in Europe, let's say. Excuse me. So to start with, it depends on how you set up your DNS and your zip address names. And so let's say you have it .com for America and .eu for EU or something. Then you would separate them. But if you only have .com for everything, you would still have to point it to a server somewhere here in America, and that would then redirect everything to your home service in Europe.
But there's no performance issue for them in Europe, even though they have to come.
It shouldn't be, but
Just
it depends on how
just the
many
initial
users.
connection.
It depends on how many users there are. But it's like how Microsoft does with Link Online. They have like GeoDNSs everywhere that kind of points you to your service directly. So that might be an option later on as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
When a Mac endpoint with RT Video joins the conference, who is actually creating the RT Video stream for that endpoint? Is that the server or the client?
So repeat that.
When a Mac endpoint joins,
Yeah.
which is RTVC video only, no H.264 support. So who is going to create the video for that endpoint in that codec? Who is transcoding? If all the rest of the endpoints are 2013
So RT Video would be from the 2010 client, right?
or Mac, yeah,
Or-
2010
Or something
both.
else, yeah. And they would initiate and start the meeting and then send their video to the server. And the server will only switch that out to the different users in a separate feed. That's it.
No, that's the how's he gonna receive his video?
Aha.
Who's
But it's
gonna make
going
it?
back to him.
Yeah, but it will come in 2000 like
From the server.
64. Who is gonna make this RT video for him?
So, but the user that uses that have some device or Link 2010, and he has his camera on.
Then
So
he's gonna send RT video.
he will send RT video.
And the 2013 clients can understand.
Yeah.
But but 2013 clients is sending H.264 video out.
Yeah, but in that case, they would also send out, because the clients can use 3 codecs,
Oh,
right?
they can send both
Yeah.
codecs okay. So he's
So he would receive
Okay.
their video as well, and the server would do the switching and controlling that.
So the conference server will
Sorry.
signal the 2013 clients
Yeah.
and both now.
Yeah. And tell the others to start their whatever video feed that they want to receive.
Okay, and another question, when the mobile device joins the conference and it doesn't support RDP sharing, how is it receiving content sharing?
It wouldn't if it doesn't support it, but
Oh,
that
because right now there are like a second screen pops up and there is
yeah.
something that appears like the
But you
content.
can swipe to the side and you will see the desktop sharing or information, right? But it's, so let's say you have an old mobile client or something else that doesn't support it, you wouldn't see it, right?
Oh, so it's RDP content sharing only?
Or other media.
Or what?
Or it depends on what you're sharing. So let's say you share a PowerPoint.
Okay, so
You would see that as well.
can mobile see
Yeah.
PowerPoint sharing?
Yeah, they can, right? Yeah, I think so.
We don't have
That's,
mobile.
yeah, but I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So we have a client or even a PSTN caller coming into a meeting. What role does the file share play in determining or helping that client join the meeting, if any?
So, one more time, please.
So we have a client joining a meeting or even like just a plain PSTN caller coming in.
Yeah.
Does the file share play any role in them joining the meeting, like pulling meeting information or anything like that?
No, it wouldn't in that case, right?
The only reason I ask is we had an issue where we had large meetings going on.
Yeah.
We got to about 175 people, and the file share actually started kind of crapping out, and people were seeing issues delay in joining. I mean, we had lots of other issues, but
Yeah.
I was just wondering what role
But
it might have.
let's say that all the attendees are using PSTN. wouldn't affect that.
Okay, I was just wondering. Yeah, somebody just calling in, you know, just.
Yeah, exactly. But they wouldn't be able to upload anything either.
No, but just does the file share play any role in that? Any client joining a meeting or trying to spin up a
Well,
meeting?
the file share play a role in Lync, so that's, or in Skype for Business. So that's basically, it's being used for everything to work. But in that particular case, it wouldn't put any extra load on that, from what I can understand. But it's a good question, so go down to the booth and ask someone over there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
In an online meeting with external anonymous clients that use Bob, how would you troubleshoot clients issues?
Oh, that's basically a tough one. But you still, if you have access to the server, so if it's on-prem, you could analyze the data that you see on-prem with Snooper or some other tools.
And which providers do you
So it should basically be the normal one, like S4 and ZipStack, and then just select all. That's basically what I do, those two. But it kind of depends on what you're troubleshooting, because there might be some other things with, regarding to web. Yeah. But it's always firewalls or proxies anyway, or certificates. Yeah. For audio video, like VGA, when you choose VGA or HD video.
And now it's just the bit rates. What's the max bit rates? Or what, you eventually won't get it, that's really.
So I think it's set to the max already, so that would be it.
So 50,000, so it hasn't changed since.
Oh.
It's still 50,000.
Yeah, but it wouldn't use that much, so it's just.
I just was curious.
Yeah, good.
Because if it's not VGA, then you can actually go higher.
So let's say that in a meeting you could actually, let's say that you have two screens on your viewer side. And on one screen you have the desktop sharing, and on the other side you have a full screen video of someone. And that one could actually send out HD video to you. But all the other attendees could have the gallery view. So they would only receive 240, 240, 240, but you would receive 1080.
You could receive 1080 from the full screen and another 1080 from the presentation.
Yeah.
Plus the little 240s. The max is 50,000 for all.
Yeah. Or isn't that only for the desktop sharing part? So it would probably use the max for the audio video plus that one.
So it's 150,000 per.
But it wouldn't use that much, so it's like.
But what I mean is, you have the ability up to use.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
No, you're fine. Oh, for sure.
Excel or large? I don't know. I have many.
You have Excel.
Here's an extra.
Yeah, That one is today, I think.